circle, triangle. Same thing. And this is a mythological, or from myth in the pagan tradition, where they used to have marriage to self, and then they would be raped, or they would be, you know, sort of consummate the marriage to the god of their choice.
They had a lot of orgies too.
Yes, very much. So they were all pagan religions, are earth religions, pagan religions and earth religion. These earth-based religions are very carnal because they understand that the body needs to be fully integrated into the being. When you are floating out of your body, as I was many years back, that is called dissociative disorder. You are floating, you are out of your body. That is not healthy. Oftentimes, and I told you this when we talked about illness, oftentimes the reason we get physical illness is so that we can come back into the body. It forces us to reassociate with ourselves, mind, body, spirit, okay? So a lot of these traditions, and particularly the church, when the church comes in and wipes out the earth-based or the pagan sort of tradition, it is because they want to get you away from the carne, the carnal. They want to get you away from the flesh. If you remember back in the old days, the fakirs used to beat themselves with the belts. Self-flagellation. And we still do that, but now we do it here. And whatever we do here shows up here. That's when we did the thing with Jennifer and why she needs a big butt, or
Oh yeah.
that was the purpose of that. What is the person thinking about themselves that they created their body to look the way it is? So you don't see her beating herself up, for instance, and in her case she enjoyed her butt, but we were talking about place, we weren't talking about the sexuality of it.
Right.
You don't see her beating herself up, I don't have a place, I don't have a place, my mother left and I had to lie to my dad. But you see in the creation of the big tuchus that I need to have a big space here so that I can really make my place. So it's the same exact thing, except instead of her physically beating and you seeing and saying, oh, what are you beating yourself up for? The body is demonstrating to you what the mind is thinking. So when you look at your client, what could it be that stands out physically so that that person is telling you, this is something that they have to work on. So we know that physically she's comfortable with her body, but we also know that that is the butt, and it has to do with place, okay? So when we move into the Judeo-Christian religions, we're talking much more about the mind, and we're talking much more about getting away from the body. So let's not enjoy the body, but just because you don't do it doesn't mean you don't think it. And once you think something, you've already done it. The sin has already happened. Yes.
Didn't the Christians absorb the pagan and incorporate the pagan holidays, the pagan
Yes, but
rites and rituals?
simply to make the transition easier. Hello.
Just because I thought about eating the chocolate cake doesn't mean it's happened. It's still in the bag.
Yes, but you already thought about it. So it's going to show up on your thunder thighs or your...
That's my nickname in high school, Thunder Thighs.
What? So, or your belly or whatever your issue is. And it'll go to where you have the problem area, the chakra in which you have an issue with eating the cake. Probably the third chakra, because most of us have this self-worth issue, especially in our society. Yes, but the reason that they integrated those holidays and they changed, let's say, Ostra to
Convenience,
Easter
yeah.
was simply for convenience. That's it.
Do you
Not
know
for
the
any
true
other
story
reason.
behind Easter?
Do I know the true story? You want to share it?
Easter? Well, basically, it was a time when women were chased by men so that they could have pleasure out of it. So the eggs were the women, and the men just picked them out.
Yes,
Yeah.
and there's a holiday, or there was a pagan holiday called the Maypole, which was May 1st. So the spring equinox,
Mayday.
ironically, in the astrology chart, and I know I don't have the amount of pie pieces, this is Aries. This is spring. The calendar year actually begins in March, not in January. Okay? So when they moved it to January to December, but the Jewish, for instance, the Jewish people remain, when they have New Year, Rosh Hashanah, they're actually celebrating the spring equinox. So the chart begins in the spring and goes around the year. And this is Easter. Why? What happens in the spring and what happens in Easter?
Fertility.
Fertility. And the pagan religions were fertility religions. That's what the symbolism of the egg was. So they were picking the eggs. So in May, around here, you had maypole. And they made a pole, and they wrapped it in ribbon, and they played, and it represented the phallic penis. And so there was a constant interplay of male-female genitals, fertility, sexual desire, because they're earth-based religions. But when the spirit-based religion, when Christianity came in, they plastered the Virgin Mary. And that's when everything started getting fucked up. And now we're back in a swing to the goddess. And everyone's a goddess, and everyone's having goddess parties, and I wrote a book called Witch Bitch for Gods and Goddesses, so you can have fun at your goddess party. Because we're coming back to this. So a lot of true devout Christians will not celebrate Easter because they realize that it is actually a pagan religion called Ostra. So yes, but that was it. It wasn't because they believed in the pagan. And why did they take Christmas and make it in December?
Because that was near the solstice, wasn't it?
It was near the solstice, but it was also with the Bacchanalias.
Oh, okay.
So the
Those
Bacchanalia
are orgies too.
were all orgies.
Drunken orgies.
Yep. So it was the party. So you had to slap on Christ, the Immaculate Conception, plastered on already a time where people were eating and having sex and partying. So they just matched it up. But accounts say that Jesus is a Leo, born in the summer, not in the winter. So there is a thing in esoteric astrology that they say that true saviors, like the Buddha or the Christ, are born in the sign of Capricorn. Because the sign of Capricorn, which happens to be around Christmas time and winter time,
January, isn't it?
is, end of December, early January, is the sign where you are alone, where you're spending time with yourself, sort of what Buddha did under the Bodhi tree, what Jesus did in the forest for 40 days. So there's symbolism in that. But let's go back to our relationships. Okay, what does every theory need?
Proof?
Father, father, and child.
What was that?
Every theory.
What does every theory, and Marsha, great poster by the way, what does every theory need? How do I know the difference between behavioral, cognitive, social, and humanistic? We've talked about this. What does every theory, and this is theory of personality, done my way, but it's still,
Want to be a father and a father?
no, that's, in my model, that is the answer. But what does every theory need? Every theory doesn't need mother and father.
Practice.
What is it?
Practice. Proof.
Okay, but what are you proving?
A
The theory.
statement, something.
Okay,
The
you need
idea.
some tenets. You need some basic language. Okay, remember that. When your client comes into your office, you're going to educate them as to your language, what theory you practice from. Okay, so you need a common language. And you need some basic tenets. What, to me, Tanisha, are the basic tenets for the mother, father, child triad?
Say that again?
What is the common language or the basic tenets for the mother, father, child triad? You said one of them. How do you know the difference between my model and Jung and Freud and Rogers and Maslow? Maybe that's a better way to explain it. How do you know when I'm talking about my theory versus Maslow's theory? We both have triangles.
The way you talk about it.
What, the way meaning what? Elaborate. I need you guys to understand this, and I don't think you're getting it.
How you put it, mother, father, child, and then one of the children will either relate to the mother or the father.
Okay, and that is what? What are those?
That's the common language.
That's the words. You know I'm talking about my model when I say mother, father, child.
Because the word.
How do you know I'm talking about Maslow? What words would I use?
Remember? Pyramid?
Yeah, it's the
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
the safety
the
love,
pyramid.
okay.
Okay, the self-actualization, esteem needs, same image, different theory. Why? Because I use different words. So I need you to really understand that. The theory is how you're describing the words, what words you're using. It's the power of language. So, what are the basic tenets of the mother, father, child? Mother, father, child, what else?
The triangle.
Okay, what about the triangle? I brought it right here.
Self-actualization.
No, not
That's
my model.
Maslow.
That's
Every
Maslow. I'm talking about Francis Yahia's model.
Every child
Haven't seen that one.
shadow.
Right. That's the thing. I'm reviewing that because I need to use that to piggyback onto today.
The bad bucket.
The child is the parent's
Yes.
story, untold story. I mean,
No, on that
unlined.
needs and stuff like
No, you're on it, but
The
Okay,
purpose of
every
the child
person
is
has
to
a mother-
fulfill the
yes.
parent's needs.
every child comes to fulfill the parent's needs. Means that the child's needs are what?
Unmet.
Unmet. What are the buckets?
Bad and
Bad bucket.
The bad buckets represent what?
Shadow.
Yes, the
Those
shadow
are hidden
and
parts. Of the parents that
Yeah.
didn't feel adequate, sorry.
So you don't need glasses. Good job.
is the shadow, the parts of the parents that the parents didn't like about themselves. And that became what about the child?
Their inner selves.
that. Yeah, what they base themselves.
It become themselves, their subconscious mind, the first layer of their mind. Okay? That is the language that we use when I talk about my model.
But that's
We
at the moment
need-
of conception.
I'm sorry?
That's at the moment of conception.
That's the first stage, but there's 4 stages to subconscious development. There are what?
The
Conception,
there's,
yeah,
pregnancy, then birth,
Pregnancy,
then 0 to 7.
birth, and then 0 to 7. In my model, I talk about conception to 0 to 7. Most psychological theories start at birth to 7. Different language. So we need to know the language we're using to explain the theory we're applying to a client. We have to learn that. That you have to know 100%. If you learn nothing else in this class, that theory of personality is that every single theory has its own common language. And if you don't know the language of that theory, it's going to be very hard to apply in a case when you're using that for your client. And then you're not going to be able to communicate. Remember I told you about the DSM?
Yes.
Okay, the DSM is common language so that every psychologist, every psychiatrist can call up the other and go, oh, this person has a mood disorder. Oh, this person has schizophrenia, paranoid type. So it's a common language. Now I don't have to list 6 months they've been hallucinating. 6 months they have this. They have this symptom, blah, blah, blah. The minute I give you a diagnosis, you know what it means. Just like an archetype. When I tell you the mother archetype, what do you envision?
The mother archetype.
Or if I give you the nerd archetype, what do you envision?
Yeah, the glasses. and stuff from
Exactly,
mother.
just like Jonathan.
Yeah.
That's an archetype. That's an image that's conjured up the minute you hear a word.
Did
The
I do
minute
that?
the minute you think of Freud, what do you think of?
Sex.
The couch.
Penises.
You think of the
Cocaine.
couch.
Oh, well, that's.
And some guy is there falling asleep, supposedly writing
Yeah.
notes. And the client is just on the couch, free associating.
That too, but the first thing you said.
Okay. So you see how these are archetypes? Theories are also archetypes. That's why you, in one little image, you have an archetype. These are symbols. Same thing. That is super important. Okay, so we now know the mother, father, child triad. Or the mother, father, child.
If you guys need.
Now we're doing relationships. Okay? So these are the tenets. This is the common language of relationships. You must know this, just like you know the basics of the MFC triad, you now need to know the truth is in the triangle tenets. First thing. Everything is a system. What does that mean?
Everything has a benefit.
Everything has a what?
A benefit.
They work in relation to other things that all work together symbiotically.
Yes.
Absolutely. Why do I have a cracked egg?
Because you sat on the wall.
I did. I had a great fall. I have not been able to pick myself up and put myself back together again. I have a friend who's an elementary school teacher, and she says that there's this really great kids book. She's supposed to bring it to me for me to read. And it's called After the Fall. And it's about Humpty afterwards. And she's like, you'd really like it. And I'm like, yeah, please, anything. I mean, the reason that there is a crack is that everything is a system. Do we remember this?
Yeah.
What is this?
Infinity.
No,
What
That's
other
the
things?
chaos and the
the
structure.
and then 0 to
Yeah.
And what goes here?
the 0.
That was the-
Oh no, 40 to 50.
Well,
No, there's
Female.
the-
Oh.
what was that?
Female.
Right, this is the female, this is the love, this is the Venus, this is the human body. What do we come from before we have chaos and structure?
No, the creator.
Do I have that one? That's a really important poster, we didn't print that one.
Oh, okay.
That one's super important.
Could be behind those two right there, no?
No, that one's,
The creator.
that one's the most important.
Yeah.
Which one? The,
It has the infinity. Yeah, there's two of them, but there's one that's super, super important. Okay, so we don't have it, that's fine. What did we come from before we came? Guys,
The whole soul.
yes, thank you. This is the same as this. I didn't hear you. Okay, we came from wholeness. Wholeness is a system. Are you a whole system?
Yeah.
Is your couple a system?
Yes.
Is you, your family, your husband and your kids a system?
Yes.
Is this classroom a system?
Yes.
Yes, we're intact and we're whole. Every single system has a crack. It has to. Why? This is Mythology 101.
Why? Because there's always,
Because it's
there's
infinity.
always, yeah, there always has to have some type of balance. So there's.
Why does a system need to crack?
The
Why did God
thing
need to create the
To
world?
allow for change.
Hercules,
Okay.
that he went.
And that's not the answer I'm looking for, although it's
the
right.
Hercules,
It's for a change.
yeah.
Okay.
Still not right.
No, change is, it's so it can be experienced in a different way. Okay? So I can experience myself in different ways.
So you can't know
So-
love until you know hate, and you can't know pain until you, or can't know happiness until you know pain.
Right, and that's why we're in a dual world. So we all come from something whole. We all come from a system that's intact. Think of the egg. And remember I told you in mythology, the cosmic egg is a theme over and over and over again. What's that? Creation myths?
It's duality in itself, because it's strong and weak.
Yes, but that's only when there's a thought. In order for the system to crack, there has to be a thought. That's the triangle. The thought that says, I want to know myself in a different way. If there is no thought, if God, just to use the word, didn't think, I'm going to create myself in this way, there would be no issue. We would all be back home in the cosmos and whatever your belief is. So everything starts with wholeness. Here's creation. Creation and cosmos. Panku and the cosmic egg. There are many versions of this myth, but they all center around the cosmic egg, a symbol of fertility and the coming together of chaos and matter. This was a highly popular myth in southern China from the 3rd to 6th century CE. In one version, Panku arose out of nothing as a child of chaos. This one is Nordic. They're all about an egg. They're all about something intact, a system that shatters. Because it says, what would it be like to try that? That's the whole story of God. That's the whole story of the Garden of Eden. They were perfect, they were frolicking, they were naked, they didn't know. All of a sudden, the system cracked, the fall of man, and now they're kicked out of the Garden of Eden.
Original sin.
Right, and that's the thing. The original sin is what? What is the original sin?
It's religion's way of blaming women for society's
That's true, but what in reality is the original sin?
questioning God or going against what we were told to do, basically. Questioning authority.
Before.
Wasn't it just like the Adam and Eve like thing?
Before. This is perfection. What happened? What did God want to do? Why did you come through your parents' vehicle?
Because wasn't it because he created his son?
No, it's
You're on it.
he made us in his image, right?
Okay, but what is the original sin? You are in heaven. You are perfect. You have no pain or suffering. You're happy as can be. You have your 72 virgins. You've got all the cake in the world and you can't gain weight. You have a perfect mansion of crystals and chandeliers. Why the hell do you want to come here and suffer?
Boring, that's why.
Okay.
You have everything you want, so
The
there's no goal.
original sin is wanting to experience yourself in a different way than perfection. Wanting to have a flesh. That is it. The fact that you want a flesh and flesh equals desire is the original sin. The cosmic egg has to crack. Every mythology, please learn that. The only reason that you, me, her, you are suffering is because we said, fuck you, God. I don't want it perfect. Did I tell you about the Kabbalah story in the puzzle? Okay, this will give you a visual. There was this man, and he was the puzzle maker. And the kids loved to go to the window every day, sorry, I'm short of breath, and get the puzzle. So every day, the puzzle maker would give them the puzzle, and the kids would spend the day building the puzzle. They were loving life. Think of the symbolism of the different pieces of the puzzle. One day, the puzzle maker aka God, okay, makes the most beautiful picture. And he says, why do I want to make this into little pieces? Let me just give it to the children. Perfect. The kids get to the window, they're like, what the hell's this? This is boring. Just like our tourist guest says. Hey!
Oh, he's Taurus too.
And, yeah, he's Taurus too. And the kids are like, we don't want it intact. What fun! What fun is it? What fun is it if you already give us the puzzle? There's nothing to create. There's no creator archetype. What's the creator archetype, people?
Mars.
Mars.
sorry.
It's okay. Okay? We want to create. The only reason that there's self-flagellation, the only reason that you are punishing yourself, the only reason that you're unhappy, the only reason that it's dual on this plane is because you decided to leave myth, God, the cosmos, the perfection, the perfect puzzle, call it what you want, and come here and experience yourself, have your own thought about what your life can be and beat yourself up for it, and now you're a crack system.
But isn't that the story of Jesus too?
Of course. It's the story of all myth, it's the story of all religion, it's the story of
Buddha,
basic.
yeah.
All of it.
I couldn't tell God not to create me. He created me.
Okay, but
No,
now,
I know.
but now you're infusing it with your own religious beliefs, which is fine. My job here is not to change your mind. I'm giving you the global perspective. So if we come from something that's whole and intact, why the hell would we want to fragment it that's gonna cause us stress? There has to be one hell of a payoff. There's gotta be one hell of an orgasm. There's gotta have to be one piece of chocolate cake that is just blowing you away. There's gonna have to be one hell of a love affair that just destroys you.
All this chocolate cake talk.
I know, making me hungry.
Subliminal messages.
Cheesecake Factory, who wants to go?
Yes, lunch, I'm there. Okay? So there is something on earth that you want to experience in your lifetime, which is the reason that you chose to leave your perfect puzzle and said to the puzzle maker, no, give me the broken pieces of the puzzle, give me the fragments, I'm going to do the work and pick up the little pieces. And that piece of the puzzle is the symbolism of you, of your life, of your fragments, of your archetypes, of all of the stuff we've been talking about.
So is hubris the sin?
Is it?
Well, I mean, if you're saying that we had perfection, we chose to question it, we allowed the system to crack, and we decided to leave thinking the grass was greener, chose the corporeal, and then are suffering for it as a result, and then the goal is to get back to the perfection, as far as religion's concerned.
The fact that religion's concerned, but we know metaphysically that we already have the perfection in here. That it's about living that earthly sin. It's living that original sin. It's living that earthly experience. And still self-love and still being intact puzzle piece. Because that perfection never left you. All it did was get wrapped in shit. That's it. That's the Eastern philosophy. That's going to be way different than the Western religions. And we spent many weeks talking about how it's very difficult, even though, good morning, even though we are trying, so to speak, to, how'd it go?
I had to work last night.
Oh, you didn't make it?
I told them I'm gonna set up another meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
So we talked about how it's very difficult for us from the Western religions to incorporate this. Because it's
That's the cosmos?
sacrilegious. I'm sorry?
That's the cosmos?
Is that what?
What is that you're pointing to?
Oh, this is the Philosopher's Stone. It's another sort of representation of the Sri Yantra, of a lot of the different sacred geometries. And in essence, these three
Oh, that's the
symbols
geometry then.
represent the origin of the universe and of the human existence. So, in Eastern philosophies, it's not sacrilegious to say namaste, I honor the God in you. But in Western philosophy, it's like, you're God,
I
that's...
thought namaste meant the soul. Like the soul in me greets the soul in you.
Right, the light.
Okay.
But that there's a God energy linked to that. Whereas in Western philosophy, we were not brought up. It's outside of.
Well, that's the difference
So-
between the monotheistic or the polytheistic. Or
Right, which I also explained polytheism really just being archetypes, fragments of the puzzle pieces of one whole God. And it's representative of every single one of us in here. Because she's got the 12 archetypes, and she's got the 12 archetypes, and you have the 12 archetypes. So you're a polytheistic symbol, but your entirety is whole. And so even though you decided to experience the flesh, even though though you decided to come to be human, the square represents the human body, you still hold God within you. That's the whole idea of this story. That's the whole idea